to this happy place, welcome.
Hey guys, it's Tim, and I am with my beautiful wife, Adrienne.
Oh, whoa. And this is the Dreaming of Disney podcast.
Yeah, it is.
Hello.
Hello. We're happy to have you with us tonight. We got a special treat. Special treat for your ears.
Why are you talking like this?
Because...
No, it is. It's exciting. It's an exciting episode.
We got some...
Oh, man.
Jinx.
Give me a Coke. Our boys have discovered this, or that they can say jinx and that the other brother cannot speak after that. And so they're having fun with that.
Mm-hmm. It's also incredibly annoying.
Yes. But anyways...
We have some guests this evening. We've been talking about the last day of Splash Mountain for Disneyland, May 30th, and how we're getting together with some podcasters. There's a big group going down, and they're doing a fundraiser for CHOC, the Children's Hospital of Orange County Foundation. Mm-hmm. And so we have the two podcasters who came up with the idea, who are spearheading the whole thing, and we wanted to have them on and talk about the fundraiser and the plans for the day and what we have to look forward to. And so we thought we'd have Johnny J from the MSW podcast. Got it right that time.
There you go.
And Hannah from the Learning Disney podcast, and have them on and we can chat about it.
Yeah, let's get them on.
All right, let's go get them. All right. Well, thank you, Johnny and Hannah, for joining us this week on the Dreaming is Disney podcast. It's great to have you guys on here with us. We've been Instagram friends for a while, so now it's officially official. And it's great to have you guys on.
Thanks so much for having us. Good to put a face to a virtual face to a virtual name here.
Isn't it so funny? I think COVID created so many bridges for people to get close through social media, even though I feel like I grew up being told not to do that. Not like my closest friends I met off of Instagram.
Yeah, definitely changed things. Yeah.
Don't talk to strangers online. And now that's
right.
What we do for a side hustle.
Don't do
we
it.
don't
It's
talk
okay.
to strangers online.
It's all good now. It's all good.
Yeah.
So, we wanted to bring you on because you guys are doing something really cool, and, it's all tied to the closing of Splash Mountain. We're sad to see it go, but you guys are doing some cool stuff around it. And so first off, let's just kind of introduce both of you for those who may not know who you are. So let's start with you, Johnny. Explain, talk about who you are, your podcast, what you do.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Johnny J. The name of my podcast is the DMSW podcast. D for Disney, M for Marvel, SW for Star Wars. So I think like most of us kind of got really big into podcasting during COVID times when sports and all those normal habits that you had in life were all kind of mixed up and all over the place. So kind of opened doors for new hobbies and new things to check out, and got into it with like movie podcast in general and kind of sports and comedy podcast. And then it didn't take long before I was like, I'm kind of big into Disney, looking at stuff on Instagram and watching a bunch of different YouTubers. I wonder if there's any Disney podcasts, and then just like mind blown how many hundreds and hundreds of options there were out there. And my entire focus just like shifted at that point and went 100% Disney podcast. That's the only podcast that I was listening to at that point, just the Disney, Marvel, Star Wars stuff. So over time, it just kind of felt like I was missing out on the party. So figured I'd start up my own thing and see how it goes and get myself into it.
Awesome. Yeah. And I apologize. I always butcher your podcast name whenever we mention you guys. I always say DSWM instead of DMSW.
All good.
You think you'd get it?
It's part of the charm. I like it.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here with us. And Hannah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am the host of the Learning Disney podcast, and I actually have my best friend on. She's a very permanent guest, Elisa, and she's one of those people that I met on Instagram through Disney Instagram, and now we talk literally every minute of every day. But she has been going to Disneyland her whole life. And my perspective is as someone who the first time I went to a Disney park was in 2021 when I was an adult.
Oh, wow.
And I completely fell in love. Yeah. So I've only really been in this like life for a couple of years. And we did a huge family trip to Walt Disney World in October of 2021. There's 22 of us, this whole thing. And so we just go over like learning Disney, whether you're brand new or you have been going your whole life, there's something new to learn about Disney. One of my favorite things to do on the podcast is to blow Elisa's mind because she's been going her whole life and there's things that she's like, what is that? You know, because you stop looking for it when you go so much, you stop seeing like the things. I'm really big into observing like the little Disney details. Like I love the little pieces of magic, and we do like the Main Street Window segment on every single episode that's recently new. So we just break down all the people that are featured in the park. So we have a lot of fun. We're super goofy. We call out Johnny a lot on the podcast too. And I'm also active duty military. I'm in the Air Force. So I kind of like bring along all the different perks because Disney actually does have a lot of perks for military members. So I kind of touch on that. And then we talk about budgeting because I am a super nerd. I have a spreadsheet for like all the restaurants in the parks. I've got you every single ride, the ride heights, requirements. Like I have it all. So I'm a big nerd and I'm just bringing that into the Disney atmosphere and we're having a lot of fun.
Nice. So wait, was your first time at Disney World, like before you ever went to Disneyland?
So it was, my husband and I justified that we needed to do research. Like I'm doing air quotes. We needed to recon before our trip to Disney World. So we left the kids at home because we have 2 children. Left the kids at home and we went to Disneyland with our 2 best friends here in Las Vegas. And we were only there for not even 2 full days. It was like a full day. And so much was still shut down because of COVID. It was just recently open, I think only a couple of months. So like Big Thunder wasn't open. We had no idea what we were doing. Like we just kind of like walked around the park and waited in lines and we're like, this is cool. We're like, we definitely need to buy a new stroller. like so we were able to like capture. So we just did a really quick weekend because it's less than an hour flight for us. It's a 4-hour drive for me to drive to Disneyland. So we did that like recon mission. And then we went to Disney World for a week. And then the next time I went to Disneyland, which really like Johnny is when I started getting into like Disney podcasts. I went with my mom in April of last year. And so now we started this annual thing where we want to go for the Food and Wine Festival every year. So that's where I'm leaving for tomorrow with my mom. Nice. And we brought my big sister with. So yeah, it's really, I'm brand new, but I fell in deep and I've gone to Disneyland almost every month since April 2022.
Nice.
So
nice. Tim didn't fall in that deep as far as like how often, but because I grew up all Disney all the time and he didn't really. And so then once we got married, I was like, all right, we need to go to Disneyland. I want to take you to Disneyland. He had been once when he was like 4, but he didn't remember. Okay, 7. You didn't remember either way. And so, yeah, once I took him, he was just like, yeah, he was hooked. He was hooked. Yeah.
Was your first time going with kids or did you guys go just the 2 of you the first time?
Yeah, just the 2 of us. It was before we had kids. We had been married like 2 months or so. And so, yeah, we went, but then we didn't go again until after we had our oldest. Yeah. But then, pretty much since then we've gone at least twice a year, if not more. This year, I think we're going to set a record.
We're going to set a record. There's a lot going on this year. So
we got a lot.
And then we're also going to Disney World for our anniversary in end of August for a week.
Awesome.
Just us. So that's great.
Awesome.
So
that'll be so much fun.
Yeah, we're super excited. So Johnny, you are on the East Coast, so Disney World is your home base, right?
Yes. Yep. Only been to Disneyland once, and that was actually last year. Like you guys, I think we're kind of all in the same boat there. Once we start the Disney podcast game, it makes it so much easier to convince yourself like we have to go back because it's for the podcast. It's content for the podcast.
Yeah,
so,
we need some content.
Yeah, we start making money.
Exactly.
It becomes write-offs. It's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
get those sponsorships. So the reason why we're all together is we all have a love for Splash Mountain. It's such an iconic ride. We're sad to see it go, but we're excited for the future. And so you guys got together and created something really cool to send off Splash Mountain with a bang. Can I explain what you guys are doing?
Johnny, or do you want to go?
I'll give it a whirl. The last couple of times you've given my speech, so I'm out of practice now. I gotta get back. I even forget why I started this thing. So I was lucky enough. I went down to Walt Disney World for their last day for Splash Mountain. I met up with 4 other podcasters while I was down there and just had an absolute blast. That was the first time I had traveled to the parks without my kids, just on a solo adult trip, and just had an absolute blast hanging out with these internet Disney friends that we've all made from other podcasters. And there was just this extra magic in the air that day. There was something different. It was like, to bring in like a sports analogy, it was the equivalent of like a major playoff game or a playoff clinching game. Like you could just tell like the fans like understood this just wasn't a regular day at the Disney parks. There was just that extra sense of magic in the air. That the last hour of the night, all the people that had got off the ride were just waiting around the bridges there, and every single log that came over the mountain, they would just do a standing ovation for. So it was just little things like that, just over and over again. Everywhere you looked, the crowd was just massive. It felt like the entire park had all just congregated into that back corner where Splash was for the last hour to 2 hours of the night. So walked out of there just on like an emotional high, just like this was such a cool Disney experience, such a cool Disney memory. And I'm like, how do I create this, or how can I make this happen again? Because it was so much fun and it was so different from any other day I've ever had at the parks. And I was like, I got to find a way to convince a bunch of these podcasting friends that I've made now to make the trek all the way across the other side of the country to Disneyland, because we all know that they're going to be shutting down their version of Splash. And I think once these videos of the people sharing the logs and all that kind of stuff, once that social media buzz gets out there, I just think everyone's going to be that much more jacked up over the Disneyland closing. So it's like, all right, well, I need to try to think of one other step, one other thing to kind of push this over the edge to really make people want to go. So I thought, why not kind of ride that magic and ride that wave and try to do something really to do some good in the world too, and turn it into a charity event. So I knew at that point I would need commitment from somebody on the West Coast that was a Disneyland based person that could be in the parks, because being here in Boston, I couldn't 100% commit, not knowing when that final day of Splash would be for Disneyland. So had to make sure I could find somebody that could help me run this whole thing and come up with all these different ideas along the way to really kind of get it going and going in the right directions. That's when I reached out to Hannah.
Yeah. And by reached out, he means texting me at all hours of the night while he's waiting for his flight at 2 a.m. And he was like, Hannah, I have this idea. It might be crazy, but I have this idea. I was like, Johnny, what is happening? But he ran through that whole thing and he was like, we can do some really good. So I always tell people like, this is really Johnny's brainchild. I just kind of like hopped on board and was like, what do you need me to do? Like, I love one of my jobs that I've had in the military is actually, I always tell people, is like a government party planner. So I'm like, I'm on board. This is what we can do. We've got this. So what we've done is we that we wanted to raise money for something. We wanted something that had a connection to Disneyland. CHOC, which is the Children's Hospital of Orange County. And if you're not a Disneylander, you don't know that they do the CHOC Walk every year. So that's a huge charity event that Disneyland has a great partnership with already. And also doing research, 100% of all donations that go to CHOC go back to CHOC. It doesn't go to the CEOs. It goes to research, children's and families, and care. So that was a huge driver on why we chose CHOC, as well as the fact that the money doesn't have to go through us. They have a whole fundraising site where as soon as you donate the money, it goes straight to CHOC. And that was really important to us because we don't want it to come across as this is a Johnny and Hannah thing to get money. And it can be too muddled. And we don't want any kind of doubt in this and any kind of doubt on what the purpose is. And the purpose is to help kids and to help kids and their families that are going through probably like the hardest times of their lives. Johnny has personal connections. I have personal connections through my family to these kind of hospitals. So it means a lot to us as well. So that was the first step, was finding the fundraiser. And then once we felt ready, like we had everything together with the two of us, is when we announced it on Instagram a couple of months ago. And we had an outpouring amount of love and support from so many people. And it turned into not agencies. We're just donating money. What was it, Johnny? Was it $2,000 in the first week that we got?
The first 48 hours. Yeah, the first 48 hours, we got over $2,000.
That's great.
Wow.
Quite a few people we have small shops that are donating right now. Like if you buy from Moms with Magic Crown, she does gorgeous floral light up ears. Everything that comes from her shop, 10% goes to the CHOC Foundation. We have Bashfully Ever After Co. She creates bracelets. Every time you donate $100, she's going to send you a CHOC inspired bracelet for free. That's exclusive. She won't sell it in her shop. And ultimately, we want everyone that we've partnered with and everyone that's listening to all of our different podcasts to come together on the 30th of May and just ride Splash together and just make it into like this magical moment. And for it to not only be a magical moment for us in the parks, because this is like a very historic thing for Disney, but also to know that we turned it into something positive.
So no, that's awesome. You guys are doing such a great thing, and children's hospitals like that are such we have a local children's hospital here in where we're at, and they do great things like that too. It's always great to make sure that those kids are getting the help that they need, and especially all kids, no matter where they are, and those in the Orange County definitely need the help. They're going through some very difficult times in their lives and with their parents and things like that. So that's great that you guys are doing this, and we're happy to be a part of it and to have you guys here to talk about it. And
okay, so I have a question about the day, about your guys' plans.
Yes, ma'am.
I watched your live when you announced your plans and the fundraiser. I feel like it was then, or maybe it was a post.
I have to interrupt just a little bit. Like, Johnny, your Easter eggs, I was like, what is he doing? Like, what is going on?
We could not figure it out.
I was like, I have no idea. I knew it was Splash Mountain something, but I was like, they were I was intrigued.
That was a lot of fun putting those out there, because I think it started just at the beginning is like, oh, well, we're not ready to announce yet. So let's just kind of put some teasers out there. Hopefully get that anticipation going, getting people like, oh, what's going on here? But then I think people kind of figured out a couple of the clues pretty quickly. And then for me, it turned into like, okay, it's clear. I think people think this is literally just kind of like a Hannah and Johnny like doing a podcast crossover episode together. And I can almost say like, yeah, exactly. So like people are going to think that we're just focused on our two podcasts, and it's going to get to a point where like, what are these two doing? Like, this is ridiculous. And then boom, we're going to like, when we make that final announcement and do that live, like, my hope was it would just like absolutely blow people's doors off and be like, whoa, like a fundraiser. Like I did not see this coming, and the fact that I can get involved with it and I can be part of the team with them, and this can be my fundraiser and I can help raise money for them. I can go be in the parks with them. Like the fact that it was like going to be a massive community teamwork makes the dream work kind of thing. That was exactly what we were hoping for. And I think it showed, like I said, in those first 48 hours, we had over $2,000 come flushing in. So it worked. It worked.
Sorry,
go
ahead.
Something we didn't mention is we have our own Instagram. So that was what part of what Johnny just said was like, it's not just a Johnny and Hannah thing. So we created a whole totally different Instagram at Podcast Mics for Magic. And we want the focus to like go there because we're not trying to get anything from this and that's where you can see that we started by being like, we can get all of our podcast friends together. And then like wave after wave, it was just like individuals and small businesses and travel agencies. So we've really been able to expand like even what we initially thought when we dropped it, because we were like, let's just get all of our podcast friends together. And it turned into so much more than that. And yeah, like we had so much fun. It got to a point though where we were like, they're about to guess it and we're like, what do we say next? Like, how do we we're like, someone's about to get it. We got to keep pushing it out. I think as soon as we showed the bear, because a lot of people don't know that the CHOC mascot is a bear, is when people were like, I'm really lost. Even like my friends that have been going to Disney their whole life and live like 30 minutes from the park were like, what are you doing over there? Having a lot of
people figured out Splash very quickly in the beginning. Somebody caught like the little Brer Rabbit in the log that we were kind of hiding in our podcast logos. And at the time we had planned like, oh, we can stretch out like the Splash Mountain clues for like 3 or 4 days. And day one, people are like, oh, I see it. That's Splash. We're like, oh crap. Because now we had to find something else to fill those 3 or 4 days. So I think we were like stretching out individual pieces of that Podcast Mics for logo, podcast Mics for Magic logo that we came up with. So got a little hairy there in the middle, but it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, it was a good live. It was a good announcement. So the day of May 30th. Now, are you guys planning on just like splash, 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 splash all day? Are you guys going to like marathon just over and over? I thought I heard, I don't know if that was somebody else. I feel like one of you said that. Like,
yeah, that's what we've said. You can't see my face right now, but that's what we said we're going to do. I was telling Elisa on our podcast that we put out this week, I was like, that's going to be a really long day, because if you remember the Magic Kingdom wait times for Splash were like 2 to 3 hours. And I was like, we might need to take a break. So something else is you'll be able to see the partners because we're all going to be wearing matching shirts. Yeah. And so I was trying to justify in my head. I haven't even said this to Johnny yet. So sorry, Johnny. Like maybe we need to spread out throughout the park so that people can see our shirts. Because the point of us wearing our shirts is so that people are like, oh, they ask us questions and they ask, what are you doing? Because I did the gumball rally through Mice Chat at Disneyland, which is like a competition of how many rides you can ride in a day. And we were all wearing the same lanyard. And like every time I turned a corner, someone was asking me what I was doing. So that's kind of what spurred. And then Johnny had a friend that did a fundraiser and he had a certain shirt, so that we're hoping that we can get people to donate even while we're there the day of. So if we can have some people like off in like Fantasyland and like, so that people will ask those questions so we can get others to donate even the day of too. But the plan is to just ride.
Yeah. Well, we can't miss Hyperspace Mountain, so we will spread out at some point. And there's also some new food in Toontown that I need to try. So you're Star Wars shirt.
Tim showing.
Yeah. And I have my Splash Mountain. I've got my mountain shirt. But yeah, so we'll show off. We'll talk to people because there was something in Tomorrowland I wanted to try too. So I'm there for the food a lot of the times. So
yeah, well, we've had some people say that they hate water rides, so they're like, we'll do it once with you just to say we did it, but then the rest of the day we got to go do something else. And some people hate the drop ride, so I think we kind of assume that we'd have people kind of spreading out through the parks and kind of helping get the word out. But if there's anybody out there that wants to just Ironman that ride all day, then I'm happy to get in that queue with you all day. Cause like I said, to me, that was the most amazing part in Walt Disney World, was just the energy. Like it felt like that part of the park had its own heartbeat that day. Like I think we all kind of like have a little small talk and chit chat with people randomly that you don't know when you're in a line that's taking a long time. But even that atmosphere was different that day. Just so many people were dressed up like the characters. People had the stuffed animals from the characters on the ride. And just everybody, you could hear everybody's conversations talking about, I remember my first time when I went on it with my dad, or I brought my kids to this ride so many times. Like there's just so much just magic like in that queue area. So my plan is to be there all day, just pumping out the word there. But the more people we can spread out through the parks, that's only going to help, I think, the team total during the day. So all good.
So I'll ask it anyway. So the fundraiser, they can donate through that day, and then is it closed at the end of May 30th?
Yeah, it's pretty open. So we can kind of keep it open. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It says there's not like an ending.
No, there's no timeline.
What am I trying to say?
I know. I understand.
End date.
Okay. No, it can stay open. And we haven't even really talked how much, because Johnny is so motivated. He's like, he already has plans for what the next thing is. I was like, okay, what's the next thing? And he's like, I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. So like we're planning on keeping it open, like, and see what the focus is after Splash. It would be awesome if we could keep just raising money. We just have to find a new focus. But right now we're hoping to meet a goal by the May 30th. So that's kind of like our own end date, but no, the fundraising site will be open, I believe, forever, Johnny, unless I'm incorrect.
Yeah, I think it's up to us to kind of contact CHOC and tell them we want to shut off that link, or we've finished our final fundraiser. We can turn it off. So we can turn off that fundraiser. And then my assumption was, going forward, if we keep this thing, if this one goes off without a hitch and it goes as smoothly as we hope, and it was a ton of fun, then we'll pick a new charity maybe next time and see who else we can help out along the way.
Nice.
Well, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know, Johnny, you're on East Coast time, so it's late there. And then Hannah, you're driving down to Disneyland tomorrow. So, you got an early.
Oh, wait, did you say you're going to Disney, or are you going to Disney World tomorrow?
We're flying. This is going to be the first time I've flown to Disneyland since I went in April last year. But yeah, we're flying. We have to leave my house. My mom is on her way over to stay the night, and we have to leave at 4 a.m. Make our flight.
Yeah, you need to go to bed.
So
you need to get some sleep.
Just to end this out, something that we always ask, favorite memories from a Disney park.
Let's narrow it. Are you narrowing it? Or are you just leaving that open? Or are we going to? I was going to bring it specifically to
Splash Mountain.
Splash Mountain.
Okay,
keeping the theme going.
I mean, it's obvious probably what Johnny's going to say, but favorite Splash Mountain memory. Hannah, you go first.
I'll go first. Okay. So the trip that I took with my mom in April of last year in 2022, it was a really special trip because it was her 60th birthday and it was her first visit to Disneyland ever.
Oh.
So it was so much fun. She had been dreaming of that moment for as long as I can remember, being like, I still got to go to Disneyland. So I found the opportunity to take her, and the lines were so long for Splash, and it kept getting shut down every time it was our turn. So we were like, we'll just ride Splash at 9:30 at night. Like, it'll be totally fine. I tried to get her in the front of the log. Somehow she convinced me to go in the front of the log, because she's also like deathly scared of heights. So, and I was like, okay, that drop is a little intense. So I went in the front, and then it was all adults in the log. And if you don't know this, if you have all adults in the log, you sink a lot further down in the water. And we got soaking wet. And when I say like soaking wet, not a single piece of me was dry. And then it was a Main Street Electrical Parade. And this might be why I don't like this parade, but it was a 10:30 showing. And I was like, my mom has to see this. So I'm sitting there, and it is so cold in Anaheim at night. And I was shivering and I was turning blue. My mom went to go to a shop and I saved our spots for the parade and she couldn't find me a jacket. So I was literally saying in my head, like, you are a trained military officer. You can get through this. You've been through worse. Like, open up, you're fine. So like long we watched people like with people were out buying blankets, but my mom had never been to the park. So she didn't know where to go. And I don't know why I didn't go. I don't know. I somehow, the one that knows the park stayed on. But so that was, and we talk about that over and over. And it's like, it's one of my mom's favorite memories from the park is us doing splash at night and then sitting through for an hour and a half just to watch a parade I don't like. So it's in that, I think that was probably like the pinnacle, like, you suffer through, but then later it's an awesome and fun story. And that's been her number one story she tells from her first time at Disney. So that's incredibly special for us.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a good one. I love it at night.
All right, Johnny.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously that last day down in Walt Disney World was really special, but I already talked about that. So to bring it more personal, the first time we traveled to Disney with kids, that was actually the trip that I 100% got bit by the Disney bug. It started off, I was the dad, like pushing it off, saying it's too expensive. They're too young. They won't remember it. And then finally, eventually my wife convinced me that it was the right time to go and we had to make it happen. And I'm so glad we did. Cause that's, like I said, I got bit by the bug when I saw the magic on the kids' faces in the parks with meeting Mickey and the characters and all the stuff that happened there. And on that trip, it was one of my twin daughters. That was her favorite ride was Splash Mountain. So one of the nights we were in Magic Kingdom, she asked if we could just do it a bunch of times in a row. And we had traveled with grandparents at the time. So my wife was with her parents and the rest of the kids. So she's like, you guys go ahead, go have fun. So me and my 5-year-old daughter did Splash 7 times in a row together to close out the park that night. She fell asleep. The last trip through the ride, all the logs backed up before the big hill and she fell asleep like leaning on my shoulder. So always have that daddy daughter memory with my daughter Sydney on the on that trip there. So
that's a good one. Now, did she wake up before the drop?
Yeah. I woke her. I waited until we were climbing the hill and I was like, hey, you might want to wake up now because you're about to experience the drop again.
But like to wake up at that part could be very startling, especially for a 5-year-old. You're like, what in the world? Yeah.
That would make a really good picture, though. That would have made a great rifle. Not that I'm saying that you should have done that.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we're excited to be there together, see in real life and IRL. Adrian's looking at me using these.
No. Well, okay. Yeah, I was going to make fun of you for saying IRL. That's true.
Trying to act younger than I am. But yeah, glad to get this fundraiser out there, get as many people to donate. And so where can people go to find out more?
The best spot is the new Instagram account that we started for the fundraiser. It's at Podcast Mics for Magic. It has the link on where you can go to donate to help out the charity. And then all these other podcasters and friends that are helping out with their small shops and their own events to help us fundraise. We're pumping all that information, all those pictures through that Instagram feed to keep the words out. We're sharing it from our own individual feeds from there as well. But Podcast Mics for Magic is the main spot for all information and everything that we got going on with the fundraiser.
And if you don't have Instagram by chance and you want to just get more information, we also have a Gmail. So you can just email us at podcastmicsformagic@gmail.com. And Johnny and I are both on that. So if you have any questions, or you need the link, just let us know and send us an email.
Great. Yeah. And we'll put the link in the description of this episode so people can find it. And we'll obviously post more on our social channels. But yeah, great to have you guys on. We'll be seeing you guys in a few weeks. And
can't wait.
Yeah. And hope you guys have safe travels. Hannah, sleep well. Have a safe trip tomorrow.
Have fun.
Yeah. And we'll be
I'll eat a churro for you guys. I'll dedicate a churro.
Splash for us while you're there.
Yes. Get a churro.
So my sister's pregnant, so we'll see. We end up going on Splash. Yeah.
It's
It's more of a food trip. It's more of a food trip this time. Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with that. I've been there pregnant, and yes, I focused on the food. So
awesome. Well, it's great talking with you guys, and we'll be talking soon.
Yeah. See you next
Sounds
month.
good.
Thank you.
See you next month.
So for more information, you can follow the Podcast Mics for Magic on Instagram at Podcast Mics for Magic. And also you can follow Johnny at the DS.
You did it again.
I did it again. At the DMSW podcast.
Yes.
And then Hannah at Hannah, the learning.
Oh man.
Oh, it's
Hannah Learning Disney.
Hannah Learning Disney at Hannah Learning Disney on Instagram. And of course, you can also follow us. We're at
dreaming.of.disney.podcast.
That's right.
And like I said last week, we really didn't want to make it that complicated. We had no choice.
No, it's a lot of people dream of Disney.
That's what you said last week.
Yeah.
And it's still true this week.
It's true.
So thank you for listening.
That's my line. You're stealing my thunder.
Sometimes I want to say it. Sometimes I want to thank the people.
Okay, thank the people.
I'm going to thank you for listening to this episode, to last week's episode, to our first episode, to our episode about Genie Plus. Thank you. To the episode where I tried to do a trivia game with my children and it went horribly wrong.
If you're still listening, thank you. Like really thank you, because that was a really bad episode. Not the material was good. It was just the kids underperformed.
Anyways, thank you for listening. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. Mm-hmm. Hit the 5 stars. You want to write something nice about us? It makes our day, and we will share it on the podcast.
Yeah.
It would mean a lot.
And one thing that I've been doing is, the new, or the cities that listen to us.
Yeah.
There is one in particular that's new that we haven't had before, from another country. Belgium. Antwerp, Belgium.
Thank you, Belgium.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. This is the Dreaming of Disney podcast. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.